So today we'll see a very interesting program in Applets. I'll first show you the output of the program and then we'll discuss how to go about the program. It's a very interesting program. When you see the output, you will be amazed how such a thing can happen, and it's got a very beautiful logic. I'll introduce a new class to you people for that. But before that, let us just study the output of this program. This is your applet. When I move my mouse on this applet, you can see a line following the path of my mouse. Very interesting. Wherever I move the mouse, the line follows me. Try to enjoy this output. When I move it fast, a big line appears. When I move slowly, a small line appears behind my mouse. It follows the path of my mouse. Just think for a moment, pause the video and think for a moment how such a thing can happen. A line following my mouse. For this, what I have done is, I have recorded the path of my movement. Wherever the mouse moves, I am recording the XY coordinates of that position. I have taught you two listeners related to mouse. One is mouse listener and another one is mouse motion listener. Here I have used mouse motion listener because when I am moving the mouse, something is happening. So obviously the function mouse moved comes into picture. You must be remembering there are two functions. One is mouse moved and another one is mouse dragged. When I am moving the mouse, what I am doing internally is I am recording the XY coordinates of my mouse pointer. As and where it goes, all the XY coordinates are being recorded. And the simple logic is, as I go on recording the new points, I try to forget about the old points. Let us say, I have fixed a limit of 50 points over here. When I get the 51st point, I'll try to forget the very first point I recorded. If I get new 5 points, I'll try to forget the older 5 points that I have recorded. So what will happen is, as I go on moving the mouse, only the new 50, the latest 50 points will be recorded with me. The older points I'll try to remove, I'll try to forget them. So this is a very beautiful program, and as you can see, as I move my mouse, the line is following the mouse pointer. Here, I'll introduce you people to a new class, and that new class is called as the vector class. It's a very interesting class. In detail, we are going to learn this vector class at a later stage again. But right now, I'll just try to introduce you people to the vector class. Enjoy this program. It's a very interesting program. Vector class, I can create an object of the vector class. Now, this object is similar to an object of the array. You know, in Java, we create an array with this notation. Right? This is how I create an array in Java. An array is a collection of elements. This vector object is also a collection of elements. But in arrays, there is always this concept of dimension. When you create an array, you need to specify the dimension of the array. What are the number of elements that you are going to store in the array? That has to be told. Once you create an array with a fixed dimension, the dimension remains constant. In the execution of the program, you can't change the dimension of the array. If you have fixed it to 10, then throughout the execution of the program, the dimension of the array will remain as 10. Obviously, when the program ends and for the next execution, you can change the dimension if you want. But when the program is getting executed, you cannot change the dimension of the array. It remains fixed. vector has an advantage over arrays. Vector can be called as a dimensionless array. It's an array, but it's a dimensionless array. See the beauty about vector, when you create a vector, its dimension is 0. As you go on adding elements into the vector, its dimension automatically expands. When you delete elements from the array, the dimension of the vector automatically contracts. So there is a possibility of increasing the dimension of the vector, decreasing the dimension of the vector as we go on adding or deleting elements from the vector. So it's a very useful class available in Java where elements can be stored, any number of elements can be added and any number of elements can be deleted from the vector. One of the most important feature of a vector is that, let us say I add an element somewhere in the between, if there is a list of say 25 elements, and I add a new element on the 21st position, the remaining elements are automatically shifted below. If I delete an element from the 21st position, the remaining elements are automatically shifted above. This shifting also takes place automatically. So what you should understand is, a vector is an array, but the only difference is that it's a dimensionless array. Any number of elements can be added, any number of elements can be deleted. When an element is added somewhere in the between, automatically shifting takes place downwards, and if an element is deleted, automatically shifting takes place upwards. But there is a trap. When you add elements, you are not going to add elements of the primary type like int, float, or a double, or a char. A vector can only hold objects. So whatever you will be storing in vector will be in the form of an object. So what I'll do here is, I'll introduce you people to some of the functions of the vector class. One of the first method of vector class is the size method. As the name suggests, it returns the dimension of the vector. I have told you, when a vector is created, its size will be 0. As you go on adding the elements, its size will automatically increase. Then there is a function called as add element. The name is quite clear. It adds an element in the vector. Then there is a function which I will be using today, which will be remove element add. We are specifically telling from which position I wish to delete an element. So the function would be remove element add. Do note the uppercase lowercase mechanism over here. Then there is a function called as element add. It will allow me to access an element on a particular position of the vector. If I wish to have the 25th element, I'll have to write object of vector class dot element at 25. It returns with the element on the 25th position. This vector class is going to be used in my program where I will be showing this output, where I move the mouse and a line follows me. Now what I have done is, I have recorded the xy coordinates of this movement. How do I record? I hope you remember it in one of the classes I have introduced you people to a class called as point. The class point is a part of the java.awt package. The point class can hold the xy values. As you know, in Applets we use the dimension class which stores the width and height. Similarly, the point class stores the x and y coordinates. So what I am doing is, as my mouse goes on moving, I record the xy coordinates. Second, you must be imagining one line drawn over here. Remember, this is not one single line. It's a line made up of very small number of multiple lines. Let us say, in this path, I have recorded 35 points, the xy coordinates of 35 points. These points will be stored in the vector from the 0th to the 34th position. what you have to understand is I have drawn small 34 lines which are connecting the 35 points. Which 35 lines? Line between 0th and the first point, line between the first and the second point, line from the second to the third point, and the last would be from the 33rd to the 34th point. So if these are a collection of 35 points, I have drawn 34 lines joining these 35 points. And as I said, I have taken a limit of 50 points. I can go on storing infinite number of points, but then this line will not follow me. So what I have done is, as I go on recording some number of points and it exceeds 50 points from the last end or the old end or the oldest points from here, I remove from the vector. So let us say I have 50 points with me. 5 more points are recorded. So the older 5 points I delete from the vector. So this has to be done in my program today. So let us try writing this program. I'll import the necessary things today. The applet package for my applet class, for graphics class and dimension. Mouse listener you want, so for that you need to have the event package, and for the vector class I'll be using this utility package. It's a very common package, you people have seen this many times. So today again I'll write down an applet for you which extends applet, and you remember one thing, that an applet class always has to be a public class. So here right now I require only two things, init and print. Now the very first thing that I will be doing is I need to define a vector over here. We can define an object of the class vector, we can name it anything. But as we know, we are going to represent the number of xy coordinates. So I'll name it appropriately. I'll call it as list of positions. If you feel it's quite big, you can shorten the name. But because I am going to record the list of positions, I'll call it as list of positions. Let's create a vector over here. List of positions equals to new vector. So this will simply create a new vector object for me. When I showed you the output, the background of my applet was black. So I have got a function called as set background. You know there is a class called as color, and I'll simply define the color as black. So what I have done till now is I have defined a init method of my applet class. In that init method I have created a vector object and I have set the background of my applet as black. Now you know whatever we need to do, the point recording part, that has to be done in the mouse mode, because that has to be done when the user moves the mouse. So here I'll be using implements mouse motion listener. Remember this. We are not implementing mouse listener, we are implementing mouse motion listener. Mouse listener has 5 functions, they are of no use to me. Today I require the mouse moved part, and instead of mouse listener I have used the mouse motion listener. So on the applet, here I'll add mouse motion listener, and I'll be implementing the function. So in the same class, so I'm writing this over here. You know the 2 functions of mouse motion listener. I'll be using public void mouse move, and I'll be using public mouse drag. Again, mouse drag. You know when the mouse is moved, this function is called. When the mouse is dragged, this function is called. The information related to the mouse is available in the object E, which is an object of the class mouse event. This object E is going to give me the x and y coordinates where the mouse is currently placed. So what I'll do here is, I'll define an object of the class point, new point, and I'll get the information of the x and y coordinates. Get x, E dot, get y. The point class stores information in terms of x and y. So what I have done is, the current status of the mouse is available in this object, the current location of the mouse is available in this object. I have extracted the x and y information from E and I have created an object of the class point called as P. This object point I would like to add into the vector. So my vector's name is list of positions, as a list of positions dot add element, and I'll simply add the object P. Now see what will happen every time the mouse is moved. I'll record a new point with the current x and y, and that point object will be added into the list of positions. But this will go on adding infinite number of points. I need to fix the limit, and as I said, as I discussed earlier, I fix the limit to 50. You can fix it to 2500, whatever you want. I fix the limit to 50. So if the number of points exceeds 50, I need to forget, I need to remember, I need to delete the oldest point, that would be the 0th point. So I'll put down that logic over here. See, if list of positions dot size is greater than equals to 50, if it exceeds 50, this is what we will do. List of positions dot remove element at, and I'll be removing the 0th element. So what happens when you remove the 0th element is the oldest element will get deleted. Now try understanding this again, the mouse moved function. When I move the mouse from this position to this, mouse moved may be called say 10 to 15 times. Every time what it does is that it checks the number of points. If it has exceeded 50, then removes the oldest point, that is the 0th point. And as I told you, when the 0th point is deleted, points from first till the last are automatically shifted a position above them. After that, the current x and y are recorded in an object of the class point, and that object is added to the list of positions vector. So what I will be getting is a vector which should be containing the xy coordinates of n number of points. Now the real logic starts. I need to draw these 50 points, or the number of points available in the vector. Let us say my vector consists of 30 points. So what I need to do is I need to draw 29 lines connecting them. Obviously that logic has to be written inside the paint event. So inside this paint event, I try drawing these lines. For that, I'll use the simplest of loop for you. Mind well, the loop doesn't start from 0. I have purposely done this. The loop is starting from 1. List of positions dot size minus 1. In the last point it will go. Now why 1? I'll tell you why. I'll create 2 points by this method. List of positions dot element at, I'll write down I minus 1, and list of positions dot element at I. So can you understand what I am doing? When I is 1, I need to select 2 points, that is the 0th point and the first point. When I will be 2, the first and the second point. So I am selecting the I minus 1 and I. So what I am getting in A and B are 2 points, that is the first point and the second point. And simply what I need to do is, I need to draw a line. So for that you have this function already taught, draw line, which will draw a line from x, x1, y1 I need to give, and x2, y2, b dot y. So it starts from xy, it ends till this xy. So what will happen is when I is 1, A will be 0th point, B will be first point. It will draw a line from 0 to 1. When I is 2, this will be the first point, this will be the second point. It will draw from first to second and so on. Let's say there are 30 points, so the last point would be at the 29th position. So the last line that it will draw will be from 28 to 29. So that part I have defined inside the paint part. Now, as you know, paint takes place after a certain event. When I minimize the applet, paint takes place. When I maximize the applet, paint takes place. When the applet is started, paint takes place, and so on. But I can forcefully also call paint, and for that I have got a function called as repaint. Now it's a bit difficult to understand. I wish to call paint, but I am not calling it as paint, I am calling it as repaint. There is a concept of updation of the applet which takes place internally. What the updation does is that it first clears everything that has been written on the applet and then calls the paint even, and hence it's named as repaint. What happens is, repaint makes a call to update. Update first removes everything present on the applet, and then update calls the paint event. So you get a fresh output every time. So I have not written paint over here. What I have written here is repaint. Secondly, the background of the applet has been set as black, and the normal drawing color is also black. So you will never get a line shown on a black background. So what I can do here is that in the paint I can set the color to say color dot white. So this sets my drawing color, whereas this sets the background color. Background is black, whereas the drawing color that I have specified over here is white. So if I try to compile this, let us see what happens. If I try to compile this program, see, the best thing to learn about vectors, everything has been written over here properly, but the error that it gives me is incompatible types. The highlight of vector, an array will be of the same type. If all elements of an array, if you consider, all the elements will be integer, or all the elements will be float, or all the elements will be of the same class, objects of the same class. But a vector has a very beautiful thing. What it can do for you is, it can store objects of dissimilar types also. Some of the objects may be of employee class, some of the objects may be of say frame class, some of the objects of that vector may be of say point class. It can be a collection of these objects also. So when you are retrieving the elements, it has to be typecasted as point, because it can store elements of all types. So here I typecast this as point. Here I typecast it as point. Let me recompile this. Let me try to execute the applet for you, and again the same thing takes place. A line starts following my mouse cursor. Now what will happen if I eliminate this part? Can you guess? If I eliminate this, if I stop removing the oldest point, what will happen? See, I'll compile this for you. I'll execute this for you. What is happening? The line is constantly getting drawn. The older points are not forgotten. They are not being removed. So the line gets drawn continuously. But remember, when I did this much, not only this line has been drawn, the whole thing has been redrawn. That means every time I move the mouse, the whole thing gets redrawn. Not the new part, but the whole thing gets redrawn from the 0th position till the last. And that's why you can see something flickering on this applet screen. This flickering can be removed, but this is what is happening because large number of points have been recorded and continuously redrawing is taking place. And hence the flickering effect is being shown on the applet. This will be removing at a later stage, but right now what I do is I'll forget the oldest point by this logic, and again you can see what is happening. You can see a line perfectly following my mouse cursor. Okay, so practice this program. I'll give you the file also. You can practice with that file also. Okay, thank you.